So, how did I make lemonade? How did I make lemonade? I want to tell you guys a story about that. But really what I want to do in telling this story is not just tell you the story, but also begin to talk about what I think is an important myth that's been created around businesses. And I want to try and dispel that a little bit. And what I'm talking about here is the myth of the hero entrepreneur. Right? And I think that when we talk about businesses, and especially now in New Orleans with that, right, there's a lot of this sort of entrepreneur worship going on. And why do I think that's a bad thing? Because most of us as business owners have tons and tons of problems to solve every day. And the hero approach to this says that you're supposed to know the answer to everything. And furthermore, it sort of implies that if you don't know the answer, maybe there's something wrong with you, and perhaps you shouldn't be a business owner anyway, which, by the way, is what every business owner fears the most, because whenever you talk to us one-on-one or have a drink, right, everyone's sort of like, I think I'm a fraud. I hope nobody figures this out. We all do that, right? It's not just you. So as I tell this story about making lemonade, I want you to think about how many people it took, right? Because I didn't make the lemonade myself. So, 2001, freshly divorced, which meant leaving my house in Mid-City, moving down to Marigny. I decided to distract myself by picking a fight with one of the largest companies on the planet, which is Walmart. So I started my blog that I call urbanconservancy.org and started typing out things about Walmart. And shortly thereafter, I got an email from someone named Ed Melendez, who I had not met at the time, but he had a blog where he was writing things that were actually much smarter than mine, but also about Walmart. And he said, you know, there's probably not really much need for two people to be writing this stuff. So we got together, and that became the nucleus of what became the Urban Conservancy. Shortly thereafter, we had, you know, mission statements, value propositions, all this kind of stuff, 501c3 applications in. And so we were forming this nonprofit. We were having this little fight, as it were. And you might think that sort of, you know, forming the Urban Conservancy after this divorce is the making the lemonade. That's not where I'm going. Because we were about to get our collective butts kicked on this issue. And that really wasn't in doubt from the beginning, right? So, I mean, it was pretty assured that Walmart was going to come through and that we were going to lose. But what we wanted to do was to take this opportunity to open up a conversation about small businesses, about local economics, about land use, about equity, and about democratic participation. And so we saw this as an issue that we were going to try and get those issues out before we got steamrolled. And in the end, we lost. You know, Prescott Coffee, his friends had a payday, Walmart's down there, you know, that was kind of a foregone conclusion. And so at that point, we really could have just sort of, you know, gone home or realistically back to the R bar for highlights and Jamesons. And just said, well, we did it, right? We tried, great, you know, end of story. But we kept talking, we kept having these conversations. And we said, well, look, let's imagine, I remember the specific conversation we had, like we said, in 3 years there's going to be a Walmart down there. And we have a lot of data to sort of outline what may or may not happen about that. So what are we going to do? We can just say, well, we fought, we lost, okay, move on with our lives. Or we can try and figure out a way to engage for the long game, like Walmart's playing the long game, right? And so we started thinking and imagining something that would talk about and communicate the value of local businesses for local economies, for local culture, for sustainable economics, and we called that thing StayLocal. So our insight came when we realized that while being against something can unify people, if you really want to affect change for the future, you have to create that vision of the positive future that you want and help people to go there. People can only be against things for so long. So, StayLocal, we start this. It's an entrepreneurial venture. And we conceptualized it that way. We thought about it that way a lot. We thought about revenue flows. We tried to think about ways that we could make it sustainable, like any business. We thought about, we didn't want it to be a grant-driven, funder-dependent organization if we could figure out how to make that happen, which is hard. And so we started doing gap analysis. I'm not sure we really had that term at the time, but you know, is there a need? We thought there was a need. What's our product? We don't know yet. We'll try and figure out some kind of product. But we talked to people, all kinds of people. Blake Haney's of the world, you know? I mean, all kinds of folks. Trying to figure this out, right? Like, because we didn't have the answers. One of the first things we had to do was actually create a definition for a local business. And at first, it's like totally easy. We got this, right? You got Walmart, you got Target, you got Home Depot, not local. You got Angelo's, Mercados, local, we're done, right? But like most things in life, the more you look at it, the more complex it gets. Harry's Ace, Co-op. What does that mean? I don't know. So we were trying to figure out how could we make something for local businesses that non-local businesses couldn't glom into and then try and like say that they were all local. And we couldn't figure this out. But as we started to talk to friends, we realized that we had friends who worked for national chains who knew exactly how to set this up and were sympathetic to what we were doing. And so they started feeding us information. You know, ask them what city the accountant lives in. You know, ask them what city the attorney lives in. You know, all this kind of stuff, right, to help us put this together. We couldn't have done it on our own, but by reaching out, we created something, and people helped us build. The next piece that we had to do was to figure out how to make this sustainable. And we wanted, like you guys in all of your businesses, right? It's can I run this thing? Can I grow this thing? And the only way you can figure that out is through an honest assessment of what your skills are, what your passions are, and then line those up objectively against this thing you're creating, which is not you. It's a different thing. It's a company, right? And we looked at it, and what we realized is that our skills and our passions and the other pulls on our time were not going to allow this thing to go. And that if we needed this to go, if it was ever going to be anything more than a vanity project for two troublemakers, it needed to have an executive director, it needed to have somebody. That meant we had to find money to hire this person. Now, at the time, I only worked in bike shops and academia and some nonprofits, so I thought like 20,000 was pretty cush if you made that. And Ed had worked in the corporate world. He was like, that ain't gonna cut it, dude. So anyway, he's like, this is a strategic hire. We need to invest appropriately and try and figure out a way to make this happen. Again, we started talking to friends. We didn't know the answer. We pulled people in. What should we do? Who should we talk to? How should we structure this deal to give ourselves? Because like many of you, if you have an important hire to make at your company, it may be the case that if you get it right, everything is awesome. And if you get it wrong, that's the end, right? It takes all the resources and you're done. And that's kind of the point we were in. Now, thankfully, through our networks, we found Dana Ennis, and it was the best hire that we ever could have made. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Because if it weren't for her, if it weren't for Mark, if it weren't for everybody on the board who came together, this would just be an idea, still sitting there, right? And so when I look out tonight, I think this is some awesome lemonade, right? I didn't make it. I had an idea, but if I had held that idea and been I'm going to be the hero entrepreneur, it's my playground, I'm going to make this thing happen, I'd still have this idea and none of this would be going on. So what I'd like you guys to take away is that if life does hand you this big crate of lemons and you see an opportunity to turn that into lemonade, don't hold tight. Take that moment and look up and look around and see who's around that can help you and maybe make this thing bigger and better than you ever thought it could be, because this is bigger and better than anything I could have imagined. Thank you very much.